أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمثابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين. وأما بعد فإنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. What Imam Hussain shows us is how to venture towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through becoming purified of ourselves at the most intimate level. Sufferings are placed in life for a reason and for a purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes to retake what is His. And a beloved of God needs to yield to God. If we want to take a step to meet with God, then we have to be resolved that we have to leave the journey in the hand of the beloved. And then whatever He passes and destines needs to be embraced wholesomely, unbegrudgingly, without complaint, without question. We take a route. It's a turbulent route. We have fluctuations within us as we encounter difficulties. But as we grow and advance in life, it ought to become easier. We need to arrive in a state of inner flow and fluidity, that when Allah deprives us of whatever He has given us, we say to Allah, it was yours, it has come back to you. It was never mine. I belong to you, and I make my path towards you. Life will never be without difficulties. As difficult as it is the way of God. For one in separation, I need to understand carefully that I myself am the barrier. My love of this world, my love of my life, my love of my family, my love of my community, my love of possession, my love of control. Ultimately, these are the barriers. And if we can go beyond it, my love of paradise is the biggest idol within me that is keeping me away from the ultimate truth. Imam Hussain is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through whom we remind ourselves of the truth. We cannot belittle Hussain ibn Ali. Hearts need to break at the mention of Hussain. The eyes need to pour tears at the remembrance of Hussain ibn Ali. I find it very difficult to be within the presence of Muslims who cannot understand the worth of Hussain ibn Ali. How can he not touch every heart? How? How can souls not be immersed in him? How can we not give our chests to the raging arrows and say, cut me into pieces? By Allah, our love for Him consumes us more than any blade can consume us. How can there be rest and peace without union with the beloved? The Prophet said, you will be raised with the one you love. I hope with these tarnished hearts, we meet with Hussain, and then we meet with the Messenger. And then we progress to Allah. And we say to Allah, this one brought me to you. When I look at my own life, the inner turbulence that I've experienced, nothing could have kept me on faith aside from Hussain ibn Ali. And I thank my grandmothers and aunties and my mothers who instilled this culture of crying for Hussain, of going to the mosque and listening to Hussain, listening to what he has done, and then growing up and thinking about what he did, to understand what this man was. I cannot thank them enough. For one, religion doesn't appeal to me, not at all. It was this man who kept me on the path. And now religion makes sense. The mind was about to reject faith. It was just the heart that was held together through this man. But if it did not make sense, then why did Hussain do this? If God was not worthy, then where did he find his strength from? If it was all so nonsensical, why did he find such a lofty meaning? If this earth is unbearable, then why did he thank Allah in the midst of tribulation? And crying for Hussain is a source of purification for the soul. Pray namaz, fast, do whatever you want, and keep it up. But until and unless this heart falls in love with God, none of it makes any sense. And I've seen this. When the hearts break for Hussain and the eyes tear for Hussain, it is at that point that the heart loses its malice, becomes purer, becomes softer, becomes forgiving. Do you not see when people are crying, you ask them to forgive and they forgive? Do you not see when people are weeping for Hussain, you ask them to sacrifice and they sacrifice? This is what Hussain does. It's the name of God that resides deep within our souls. Honor Hussain. Hussain is the core of our reality. Trust me. The modern man is coming to Hussain once again. Maybe not in the name of Hussain, but the ethos of Hussain ibn Ali. So we will face difficulties and we will suffer because we are on this earth to learn certain lessons. And those lessons are that whatever we have been attached with is not us. And when it is all snatched, it's going to pain. And when it pains, that pain will cure us. That's the whole life of ours. And through that pain, we need to grow. Now come to the story of our beloved. See how Allah has purged this man. Akbar is the love of his life. He is shown a dagger plunged deep within his chest. Abbas is his strength. Allah tears away his arms and shows to Hussain. But there was no test greater than a test that Hussain could not have anticipated. Allah places a weightless child upon his hands. And an arrow tears his tender neck. He trembles violently. It is here that the throne of God begins to collapse. And the lion of Allah comes upon his knees. Yet he finds strength and walks again. Everyone has been deprived from Hussain. Everyone has been taken away from Hussain. We go towards his tent. there is loneliness, and the air is filled with deep sadness. He sits outside the tent. In his lap is a little baby. We hear cries from the tent. The soldiers mockingly look at him. Hussain, advance to your death. None can save you at this point. Hussain buries his little baby, goes into the tent of Abbas, looks inside and says, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Goes to the tent of Habib, looks and says, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. He comes to the tent. He says, Zainab, bring me an old garment that none would be desirous of. She brings a garment, he tears it into pieces. What is this that you do, O my brother? I fear that they will deprive my body of my garments. I wish to wear something beneath my garments that they would not touch. She looks at him and weeps. Come, let us take news of my son. Zainul Abidin has lost consciousness. Hussain stands over him. As tears drop from Hussein's eyes, as they arrive upon Zainul Abidin's face, he awakens. He does not recognize his father. He focuses and says, Oh aunt, it is my father. Sit behind me that I may recline against you. Oh father, what news do you bring? Oh child, I come to bid you farewell. Aina Ammi al-Abbas? Where is my uncle Abbas? Hussain begins to look deeply into the eyes of Hussain, not knowing how he will respond. قَدْ قُتِلْ يَا بُنَيَّ. Your uncle has been killed. Zainul Abidin cries uncontrollably and loses consciousness once again. Regains himself. Ayna akhi Aliyun al-Akbar qad qutil. Ayna Habib qad qutil. Ayna Muslim qad qutil. Oh aunt, bring me my sword. Oh child, what would you do with your sword? I will defend you, O father. I cannot see and bear this state of yours. He embraces Zainul Abidin, who will escort the daughters of the Prophet back to Medina if he were to die, O child. Listen to me carefully, O women, O household of the Prophet. I leave behind me the finest of my progeny. He bids him farewell, comes to the tent, and calls out, Ya Zainab, Ya Kulthum, Ya Sakina, alaykunna minni salam, fahada salamu wida'i. I bid you farewell, my finer farewell. They surround him, they fall at his feet, begin to grab at his garments. He says, Zainab, look after them. Take them back to our grandfather. He begins to leave. As he is leaving softly, there is a voice behind him, Mahlan, Mahlan ya Aba Abdullah. Oh Aba Abdullah, pause for a moment. He turns around. Let me behold your face one last time. For when again will I see you? She falls at his feet. In whose care do you leave me, O Hussain? I have no grandfather, father, or mother. He embraces her and says, "Oh, Hussain, do not tear the arteries of my heart through your tears, for your tribulation shall be unending after I have gone." She looks into his eyes and says, "Oh, brother, take the glad tidings that you will find your sister as you wish." He ascends his steed, looks to the right, looks to the left, and he calls out, "Oh, my brave warriors, why have you fallen silent? I call on to you, you respond not. I ask for you, you come not." He pauses for a moment. "By Allah, death has snatched away your speech. If Allah were to reinstill life within your veins, you will come running to me once again." He spurs his horse. Now listen to this with your heart. Hussain had two daughters, Sakina and a little daughter. I'm going to read this as if it's one. Zuljana, move. The horse refuses. "I know you are tired, as is your master. But take me to my meeting place, O Zuljana, and relieve yourself of my burden." Zuljana moves not. Instead, the horse lowers its head, and a soft voice arises. "Oh, Father, I have a last request." He descends his steed. "Yes, Sakina. Istaslamta lil maut. Oh, Father, have you surrendered to death? Oh, child, how may one who has become deprived of his brothers and children and friends and helpers not surrender to death?" She said, "Oh, Father, if indeed you want to go, then take your Sakina back to Medina." Hussain cannot control his tears. "Bear it, O child, bear it for the sake of Allah." I hear from Dhakir that his little Ruqayya came to him. And she said, "Father, what do you do?" He said, "Ruqayya, I will go and fetch some water for you." And the Dhakir conveys the sentiment. She said, "Oh, Father, I'm no longer thirsty. My uncle promised water and he has not come back. I fear lest you go and do not come back." Hussain advances, battles with them, finds his way to the Alqama. As he is within the Alqama, arrows are released upon his blessed being. "Oh, Hussain, while you drink of the cold water, your tents are being looted." Like a raging lion, he emerges only to find that they have deceived him. But he saw the people advancing towards his tent. "Shimar, stop your man, I am still alive. Put me to death first, and then advance towards my tent." "Stay back," said Shimar. "Put him to death first." Now, have you seen in the story of Ashura that Hussain fell several times and he stood again? His blade dropped from his hand and he picked it up again. His breaths were constricted. His limbs were fatigued. The blood has oozed from his veins. Observe this Hussain. So many wounds upon him. He is struggling but standing. I say, oh Hussein, surrender to that. Surrender, oh Hussein. And he says, but if I were to be killed, they will loot my tents. It was his want that no harm should come upon his sister, that he kept on fighting. On several occasions he called out, La hawla wa la quwwata. Zainab heard from afar. And she took comfort that her brother is still alive. Hussein is surrounded by the enemies, and his steed is forced in a direction where he is out of view and Zainab can no longer see him. He falls from his steed and he stands once again. A three-headed arrow is shot at his chest. He extracts the arrow and says, oh Allah, they are putting me to death. Someone rides up to him and strikes him. The blessed Imam arrives upon the dust. Await not, behead the man. They circle in on him. At this point, Zainab arrives on top of the hill. As she looks on, she sees Shimmer with his knee placed upon the chest of Hussein. Now I know when we begin to die, the veils become parted and we begin to see all those that we have loved. Hussein may have seen his grandfather. Hussein may have seen his father. And Hussein's mother may have come to receive him. And Fatima would have observed the scene and turned to her father, oh father, they are slaughtering your Hussein. The Prophet turns his head, oh Ali. And then Hussein looks at his mother. But how may I bear this scene, O child? I am but a mother. As Hussein is about to give his life, he hears a lament and a voice coming from the hill. If only the heavens were to break and collapse upon the earth. If only the mountains were to crumble. Then she looks towards Amr ibn Sa'd. Is there not a Muslim amongst you who will save my brother Abu Abdullah? They surround him, she sees nothing, she retreats. As she is retreating, there's a cry, Allah qad qutila al-Hussein. Matam al-Hussein.